In other news, leaders of leading global economies unveiled a plan at the G7 summit in Cornwall for the world to compete with China. But they were still unable to reach a consensus on how to call out Beijing over human rights abuses. The leaders had serious differences over how best to approach China. While they agreed to work towards competing against China, there was less unity on how adversarial a public position the group should take. According to a CNN report, the disagreements at one point became so sensitive that all internet was shut off to the room. US President Joe Biden pushed to persuade fellow leaders to present a more unified front to compete with Beijing and sign on to a joint statement calling out China directly for forced labor practices and human rights abuses in Xinjiang. Canada, the United Kingdom, and France largely endorsed Biden's position, while Germany and Italy reportedly showed hesitancy to the stunt. Biden hopes the denunciation will be part of a joint statement to be released when the summit ends. Details of the meeting and discussions will be clear once the statement is released on Sunday. White House officials say they believe that China, in some form, could be called out for non-market policies and human rights abuses. Biden was more successful in winning support for the Build Back Better World project. The initiative is designed to offer developing nations an alternative source of funding for infrastructure projects like that currently being offered by China. As part of the new announcement, the US said the group of 7 will be joining partners and the private sector in collectively catalyzing hundreds of billions of dollars in infrastructure investment for low and even middle-income countries. The money will come from US governmental finance groups, unspecified entities from the private sector, as well as the G7 countries. The Build Back Better World initiative will counter China's trillion-dollar Belt and Roads initiative, which aims to build ports, roads, and railways to create new trade corridors linking China to Asia and Africa. China's Belt and Road initiative has been widely criticized for pushing small countries into massive debts and exposing them to undue influence by Beijing. While calling out China in the G7 communique would not create any immediate penalties for Beijing, a senior administration official said the action would send a message that the leaders were serious about defending human rights. China is facing widespread criticism for holding Uyghurs in detention camps. It is believed that over 1 million Uyghur people have been detained over the past few years in what Beijing defines as re-education camps. China previously denied the existence of the camps before defending them as a necessary measure against extremism. It has been accused of carrying out torture, forced labor, and sterilizations at these camps. Dozens of countries have condemned China on the Uyghur issue, while US, Canada, and the Netherlands have termed the persecution of minorities in Xinjiang as genocide.